Good afternoon. This afternoon we have the honor of having Professor Damon Salesa, the Vice Chancellor of the AUT University. We have had the desire to have a person of such eminence, an academic, a high achiever, and it has been possible after a long time. Thank you, Professor Damon, to be with us. We want to discuss with you about the future of education, how the education sector is moving, given all the challenges that it faces, along with the technological developments. And AUT has been on the forefront of education in New Zealand, and we have had the honor of announcing when it became a university in year 2000. And since then, AUT has taken a lot of strides. So could you outline how AUT is moving and what are the challenges you're facing?
Well, namaste, and thank you first of all. It's my honour to be here, and just to recognise that last night was the 15th Newslink
Or you mean
Awards.
our 15th Business Award?
Yeah, so I'm definitely feel honoured to be here and acknowledging your history with AUT, which, although on the one hand we're a young university, 24 years old, on the other hand we've been a place of learning for over 100 years, and so we're that new, young, but also old history, which I think resonates with our Indian community, which is also new, but has been in New Zealand for a very long time. And I guess one of the great things about New Zealand's university sector is that as a group of 8 universities, we're probably uniquely placed in that all of New Zealand's universities are in the top 500 universities in the world by almost all the major rankings. And the challenge, I think, for New Zealand is what does that future look like? And many parents will be thinking through the radical change that we're facing. We're seeing, for instance, with COVID, we conducted a real-world experiment about people staying at home. We closed the doors to New Zealand's universities. That online flexibility enabled by technology, which wasn't really thinkable as recently as 10 years ago. Then we have the emergence of whole new enabling technologies, particularly AI, but also at the front of many people's minds is the generative AI, which now appears to be doing things proximate to what humans were once capable. And then we're in a newly globalized world in a kind of third or fourth phase of globalization, which means the meaning of education in this new world is being interrogated. Is the future of education at universities a 3 or 4 year degree?
Right.
Is it the case that we should be specialising? What's the relationship between an education and what at AUT we call practice-based learning? Not just learning the thing, but doing the thing. What difference can our students make in the world? And our research and knowledge making. So exactly like as you say, this is a very interesting time to be thinking about the future direction of universities. And whatever will happen, we can see that it will be significantly different to the past.
What changes, Vice Chancellor, do you see between learning and teaching and the relationship between the teacher and the taught?
Yes, I think you've hit the nail on the head, because one of the things we learnt in COVID, which we kind of knew, was that at the heart of a learning relationship is a relationship between a teacher and a student. And although we can automate many things and we can put technology in the middle to mediate distance, that holistic relationship between a teacher and a student is more than simply pouring information into someone's head. And that many of the challenges we're facing post-COVID are not because students didn't learn something, but because they didn't develop or grow in a way to allow them to become a better citizen, a more mature learner. And so I think one of the questions that's quite open in the world of social media and a lot of technology is how much in-person, face-to-face learning is absolutely essential to deliver the transformation that education is truly about. We know that education is about a degree, yes, but at the heart of it, it is about uplifting, transforming, actually learning, and that learning will be a lifelong activity for everyone in the present and certainly into the future.
So is virtual learning becoming more apparent and more in demand than classroom learning?
Well, I think what we're seeing at the moment is a shift in demand. So there is a kind of traditional student who wants the on-campus, in the classroom experience. But for many students, especially at AUT, which is kind of an innovative, disruptive university, we know that many of our students have to work while they learn. Many of our students are not school leavers. They have families or they have family responsibilities. And so we need to make sure that we're not building a university just for one kind of learner. So I think the AUT approach will be to build in a kind of flexibility, both in the program, but also online, in person, the ability to sort of have some student choice, because I think that's what's becoming paramount. Students want to choose certain ways of engaging, and universities have to be quite grown up and say, well, you can choose these things, but these things are not about choice. This is knowledge that you must have. These are learning abilities and skills that you must have.
When Sir Reeves was your Chancellor,
Yes.
I had an occasion to do an interview with him, and he said that AUT leads in at least two fronts. One was a study of ethnic communities, and the other related to various multicultural. Does that go on still in AUT?
Oh, I think that's in the DNA of AUT. So what I think has probably matured around that is that AUT just lives and breathes it. Our staff is multicultural. Our students, we're the most multicultural university in New Zealand. I'm very proud to say we are New Zealand's Indian university. We have 2,000 domestic Indian students and about 1,000 offshore Indian students, and they just naturally shape the university. And so if AUT wasn't good at operating in those spaces, then we wouldn't be a good university. So the success of our Indian students is one of the measures of our success as a university.
How do you safeguard or protect the safety and security of international students? Because I know that AUT had its own app some 15, 20 years
Yes.
ago. How has the influx of international students, especially those coming from vulnerable areas, how are they protected in AUT?
Yeah, well, I think the key challenge for us has been the shift in the city of Auckland. So the city of Auckland is a very safe city by any global standards, but it's also true it's not quite as safe as it was 5 years ago. Our students are, of course, vibrant, courageous, active students. So they're throughout the city. They're homed often around the university, but we need to make sure that we partner with the city, with officials, to make sure that they're safe beyond the university. Within the university, I think we have a very active approach to health and safety. We still have the AUT app. The AUT app is part of our health and safety and wellbeing activity. But I think one of the joys of a university is they're open communities.
Right.
Our doors are open to anyone. We belong to New Zealand, and anyone should feel welcome at AUT. So we strike that balance between a welcoming, open place and a place that takes care of and watches over carefully, almost like a parent, its students.
In your Vice Chancellor's committee, is that what it's still called, or is it called Vice Chancellor's New Zealand?
Oh, the Universities New Zealand.
Universities. One of the challenges that you had discussed was the funding of universities. And there was an expressed opinion that the government funding should improve so that you're able to offer the courses and you're able to build on your basic infrastructure required. Infrastructure not necessarily meaning buildings, but all the other things that is still cash a problem?
Well, cash is not a problem at AUT. I think the New Zealand universities would agree that we would prefer to have more money, that we'd prefer a higher level of funding from the government. My position from AUT is...
Are you the chairman now?
No, I'm the chair of our international subcommittee,
okay.
but we have a rotating chair and it's currently
yeah.
with Canterbury. Yet I look around New Zealand and we're aware that across New Zealand people have had to take cuts across the public sector.
Yeah.
So my position is this is what the funding is, and it's my job as Vice Chancellor to make sure we take care of the public money, we do as much as possible. Our challenge is really that New Zealand isn't funding its universities to the same level, for instance, as Australian universities.
Yeah.
So something has to give in that picture. And that's a long-term concern. the short-term concern might matter at other universities, but AUT has been very strategic about how we've managed our budget. We delivered a surplus last year. We'll deliver a surplus this year. So we're very mindful of that money. And, for instance, I'm very proud that the Times Higher Education Supplement, when it ranked the universities around the world that delivered the most bang for their buck, AUT was the only Australasian university in the top 20. And so that's a sign of how we're doing so much with what we have. If they gave us more, well, we'd
so
do
much
even
better.
more. Yeah, exactly. And that has to be the position. And at the heart of it has to be that student experience, which means taking care of our staff and making sure we have world-class facilities, which we continue to have.
What does the South Campus offer now?
So the South Campus, we're right at this juncture of what I'm calling this is going to be inside baseball, we're planning a new investment in South. South in particular has two very important health programs. One is our midwifery program, and that's the largest midwifery program in New Zealand. And the other one is a paramedic program, which is the largest paramedicine program in New Zealand, the only one degree program in it. And so those meet two critical health needs, and then you can take a few other degrees in there as well, including you could complete a degree in law and business as well.
So the South Campus is offering that. Have you launched it already?
So South Campus now has been going for over 10 years.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we've got some exciting announcements we'll be making next year.
I see. And are you making any strategic improvements or investment in specific studies that you have? You're the only university which has that kind of facility, isn't it?
No, so we don't have a specific Pacific Studies activity. We will be offering a little more, but probably the main areas of growth within the university where we're seeing significant...
Where David Robbie was involved.
Oh, in the communications program. So that program is no longer active.
Okay.
But we are seeing the places where we're seeing the most substantial growth, including in our international students, is in computer studies, engineering, and then our new school of artificial intelligence and data.
What's the share of Indian international student community in AUT?
So we are the largest recipient university from India at the moment. We're very proud, both in absolute number and proportion. So we have just south of about 900 students who are coming to us from India, mostly in the postgraduate area. And then we have, as I mentioned, about 2,000, just over 2,000 Indian students from New Zealand. So it's very much at the heart of who we are and what we do.
So international students from India is about 900. Mm-hmm. That's not a very large number now, isn't it, Vice Chancellor?
It is the largest number of the New Zealand universities.
At the moment, yeah.
Yes. So we're looking to include many more students. So we're open and we've actively been engaging with India. I was in India earlier this year, and then we also have a group of AUT who are right there now, including a group of New Zealand students having an experience in India, but we'll be meeting with our partners and our agents in India.
Are you offering any exchange programs with any Indian university?
So we have some short-term exchanges, and then we're working on a wider selection of what we call articulated degrees, which are kind of exchange programs where you partly study there and partly study here, and there'll be some senior members of AUT in India in January actually exploring these.
How do you think the current government's anxiety to improve or strengthen relations will extend to the education sector?
I would really love to see that desire in the New Zealand government to deepen connections with India be reflected in the processes to support pathways to New Zealand. So we do know that it can be more challenging to get visas for students from India. We'd like to see a strengthening of that and an investment in it. We'd like to see a greater sense of welcome for our Indian
I'm sure you'll be part of the PM's delegation, because in 2011, when John Key made his first trip to India, Derek was a part of the delegation. So I'm sure you will be included in the forthcoming delegation.
Yes, I'd be very keen to be a part of that. And I as I mentioned, I chair the Universities New Zealand International Committee. All the universities feel that we would like to streamline those processes with India. And we know that because India has some different practices to New Zealand, that requires some investment and understanding on New Zealand's part, in banking, for instance.
I think education will undergo a massive change in India in the next 3 years, which might benefit countries like New Zealand for intake of international students. Lastly, Vice Chancellor, how often do you get this complaint of academic freedom being breached or academic freedom not being given?
Very rare. In fact, I haven't not actually experienced the complaint from inside my university. While I've been Vice-Chancellor, I've developed AUT's first Charter of Academic Freedom, our first proper policy on
okay.
that.
You have that in place?
Yes, we have that in place. Certainly, we've had some conversations outside the university. This is very precious to me. Universities are a place of advanced and deep thought, and so our staff and our students have to feel free to be challenged, to speak openly, but to speak responsibly, and to be places where we can all collectively learn and bring New Zealand with us.
Vice Chancellor, thank you very much. You've been very kind to extend your time for us, and we look forward to many more such occasions where we can discuss with you various other aspects of not only AUT but the education sector. Thanks a lot for being with us, and you have a good afternoon.
You too.